Hello, friends. Hello, and welcome back. And happy kind of almost end to eclipse season, although we're kind of still right in the middle of it. Happy new moon in Aries with a partial solar eclipse. And if you are feeling like motivated, if you're feeling like, ooh, I'm actually ready to go after some things right now, if you're feeling like actually now is like the new year, new me kind of feeling, congratulations. You're totally feeling the energies of the new moon in Aries. And I think it's interesting because obviously, January 1st is the new year for the world. Yet it's not really the new year for nature, and it's not the new year for astrology either.
Mhm.
January 1st is smack dab in the middle of winter, which is not the new beginning of anything, of anything. Yet when we look at astrology and when we look at nature, the start of a year is spring. It's at the end of winter. It's when we have the rebirth from that slow dormancy of winter, when life starts coming back. That's when we can consider it to be the start of a new year. And that's exactly what astrology does. And they consider the Aries, no, spring equinox, which is when we actually move into Aries season, as the official start of the astrological year. So, if you have noticed that you do not feel motivated to start anything new on January 1st, congratulations, you're aligned with nature. And you might really feel that urge, that motivation now with this Aries new moon. Um, when I intuited into the energies of this particular new moon with the partial solar eclipse, I actually was filled with a lot of excitement. Like my body got really excited, and I heard this song in my head. I think her name is Ellie Gould. I can't remember. I'll have to look it up. But
Oh,
it's that song
yeah.
that's like, anything can happen,
Mhm.
anything can happen. You know which one I'm talking about?
I
Na,
do.
na,
I
na,
do.
na, na, na. Those are the only words I know of the song, which is good because there's the only part I heard in my head was like that part over and over again. Do, 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 do. That's the other part I know. Sorry, ADHD. Anything can happen. So I got this sense and I asked, and then I saw and heard the words, everything is possible. Everything is possible. And there was this like really big expansion feeling I felt inside of me. And then I was taken to the energy of authenticity and just each and every one of us moving more and more into our authentic energy, into our authentic expression. And that in itself, us being authentically ourselves, is the invitation for the kind of like infinite, everything is possible energies. So there's this like energy of like believing everything is possible and then also just like being yourself and knowing that that is enough to call in these possibilities. That is exactly what I got for the energies of this particular new moon with solar eclipse. And again, it's really fascinating because I feel like intuitively both the eclipses I felt into kind of brought on a more yang energy than a yin energy, like more energy of like taking actions. Now, again, sometimes the actions we're being guided to take is actually more inaction, and that's just dependent on the person. But I find it really interesting that both the lunar eclipse that we had in Pisces, um, just a few weeks ago, and now this Aries new moon with solar eclipse, both of them are giving this energy of like, you got to move with it. It's moving through you and you're meant to move with it, take action with it. And so, I just find that really interesting because I often think about eclipse season as being times to do a little bit less. And again, on the individual level, we might have been called to do less. I have been. That has been something that's come through for me this eclipse season. But I know for some people, they've been called to do more. And it's really just what is in best alignment for you and your energy. Now, speaking of energy and alignment with this Aries new moon, Aries comes in with a ton of yang energy. I mean, just a ton of like fiery. And I mean, you got to think about Aries. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, the very first sign. So it's got that like first energy. It's also fire. Fire
Mhm.
is like, woohoo, let's burn it. Woo, like just got that energy to it. And it's
Okay.
also the cardinal fire sign. So it's got the triple whammy of like me, do
Yeah.
energy.
Action. Let's go.
Yes. And
Action.
also the cardinal energies are instigators. They like to start things. They're not necessarily the energy that's going to like move it all the way through. Um, but they're the ones who will get it going, who will like, and especially with Aries, it's like get that spark lit. You know what I mean? Like ignite the flame. That is very much the energy of Aries. And I always like to talk about the Fool card in tarot when I think about Aries energy because there's almost this like positive innocence to the
Yeah,
energy where it's like nothing bad's going to happen. There's nothing to even fear, so I don't even have to look. I'm just going to go. Like I don't when you look at the Fool card in tarot, it's like this person looking happy with a dog at their feet, literally about to walk off a cliff, but not even looking down. And they're not afraid. And they're like and there is a little bit of that energy with Aries of like, just leap and trust. You're either going to fly or something's going to catch you as you fall.
exactly. It's I think we've talked about it on the previous one of like, you know, fail fast, learn faster kind of thing. And I say fail in quotes because,
Yeah. There's no
all
such
it is
thing in
learning.
spirit.
Like,
Yeah.
let's just do it and find out,
Yeah.
F around and find out.
Yeah.
So
Although I have to say, there's been a whole lot of F arounding and finding out that's been happening in our country since November 7th, but really since January 21st. And this is a very different kind of F around and find out that I'm feeling coming through with this Aries new moon because it's a little bit more positive. It's a little bit more like, yeah, you do it. Let's see what can happen. What can surprise you? What can come in? Anything is possible. Everything is possible. So it's a little bit more, at least the way I feel about it, intuitively, it feels a little bit more like an adventurous F around and find out as opposed to a like Saturnian F around and find out, which is gonna be like consequences. Yeah.
well, Aries is also really about personal power. So I feel like it's
Yeah.
more like applying it on a
Yeah.
personal level rather
Yeah.
than a societal level, which I mean, it is happening on a societal level, but we
Yeah.
can apply it more to the individual.
Yeah, I love that. And we're going to talk a little bit about like some of the individual energies versus the collective energies because it's interesting, especially with this particular eclipse, what's happening. So just a little bit more about Aries. Like on the light side, Aries, as Sarah just mentioned, is all about personal power, is all about faith and trust in a lot of ways, belief in self, belief. Yep,
Yeah,
confidence in self, can be very, also very motivated. There's not a lot of like self-sabotaging or procrastination. I mean, there might be self-sabotaging, but there's not procrastination. It's just like I want to do it, let's do it. Um, Kind of like immediate. But on the shadow side, that can lead to a little bit of impulsivity from time to time.
totally.
I think there can also be a little bit of like flare-up energy with Aries as well, a little bit of like that temper, that kind of flaring of temper. And there could be a little bit, this reminds me of Sagittarius. I think all the fire signs have a little bit of this. I call it like steamrolly energy, which is like I don't even see other people's perspectives because mine is so illuminated and mine has to be right. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. And Aries is like the most direct of all of the
Yeah.
fire signs as well, which I feel like it's unintentional. It's like we're just so focused on doing that we're not thinking of all the different possibilities and how it can be perceived. So sometimes we just don't, it's lacking a little bit of empathy.
Mm,
Just a little
hmm
bit.
Or
I'm not
tact.
saying
It's
there
lacking,
we go.
maybe lacking a little tact. Because the thing is, I think Aries are actually quite empathetic. I just think they're moving too fast to say it out loud.
Right. It's not known for its empathy, but it doesn't
No.
mean it can't be empathetic. Just to be clear. Just to be clear.
So one thing that's really interesting. So again, we have a new moon. New moons are always about new beginnings, seeding new intentions. What are we getting going? A new start. And of course, that works so beautifully with the new moon in Aries, Aries being the start of spring, that whole new season, the start of the zodiac year. There's this really beautiful, like new beginning energy. And then, of course, you bring in the fact that this is a partial solar eclipse, and that amplifies this new beginning energy even more. But what's interesting, even though we have all this new beginning energy with this Aries new moon and with this eclipse is actually a closing energy in some ways because it is the final eclipse we have in the Aries-Libra axis that started all the way back on July 17th, my birthday, of 2023. Um, and so this is the very, very last eclipse we're having with that Aries Libra access. So in that way, it's actually a closing energy, even as it's welcoming in a brand new season and brand new beginnings and infinite possibilities as well. And just a little bit about that. And Sarah, please, jump in at any moment, but just a little bit about that Aries Libra axis that we've been on, ending with this particular new moon that's coming up, is that we had Aries in the north node and Libra in the south node. And when we're talking about eclipses, the south nodes are the energies that we're kind of releasing. There might be certain aspects of it we're taking with us, but there are certain aspects of it that we're letting go of, we're moving away from. And then we're moving into some of the energies of the North Node. So when we look at that Aries Libra axis, we're really looking at the difference between like me, myself, and me as the we, me as part of a community, me as part of the collective itself. And Aries energy, as you mentioned so beautifully, Sarah, is all about that personal power, eh, personal desires, intentions, beliefs, going after it, feeling strong in yourself, feeling motivated, feeling willing, feeling capable, confident. And Libra is about equality and equanimity and balance and fairness and a little bit of people pleasing. So when we look
A
at
lot
this
of it.
on a lot of it, when we
Yeah.
look at this from like a individual level, for the last 18 months, we've really been tasked to move away from some of our people-pleasing, fawning type behaviors to move more into our personal empowerment, into our authenticity, which is still being called upon us with this Aries New Moon as well. But what was also interesting as I was writing the moon log is looking at what's happened in our collective, looking at what's happened in our world over that period of time from July 2023 until now. And when I was looking at that, I was like, oh, it kind of feels like we moved away from some of the light side of Libra into some of the shadow side of Aries on a collective level. And what I mean by that is like when we have that Libra energy, we have equality, equanimity, we have caring for each other. We have that whole idea of like what I do has impacts on other people, right? This understanding I'm part of a community. And it feels like we've kind of moved away from that, at least in the government here in the United States of America. This current administration has moved into more of the shadow aspects of Aries, that kind of like not even rugged, but toxic individualism and
Mhm.
this kind of short-sightedness and rage and selfishness and not caring about anyone else but self. And so, I was kind of looking at this and I'm like, oh, that makes me sad. That makes me sad to feel like we've moved from some of the light aspect into some more shadow aspect. But what's cool about that is that even with that recognition, it doesn't negate what this lunation is calling upon us on the individual level, which is for each and every one of us to find our empowerment, to come back to our personal and authentic sense of values and motivations and power and confidence in response to this collective energy back into the shadow. It's like each and every one of us moving into the light aspects of Aries is what's needed to get us as a collective out of the shadow aspects of Aries.
Yeah. And, we it's now in Pisces, which is all about interconnectedness and seeing how we can have more compassion. So I think just part of being a human is sometimes we have to go to one extreme in order to really pick up the
Yeah.
lessons to balance it back out again. And
Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
is sad, but at the same time, I think it's part of the process of,
Yeah.
okay, let's feel the burn a little bit here of what that feels like and looks like so
Yeah.
that we can really be intrinsically motivated to be in this other space of caring for one another.
Yeah. Yeah. And that can help us be more accepting of some of what's going on, which is not what most of us desire to be going on, right? Like if we can just be in acceptance of, oh, well, this is happening because it's going to create really important shifts and transformations within each one of us that's going to eventually impact the collective as well. So, very interesting.
And I also want to, yeah, I also want to speak to, as we're talking about Aries energy as well. Although it is spring, new beginnings, we do have two retrogrades,
Yeah.
inner planets retrograding during the time of this new moon solar eclipse. We have Mercury retrograding in Aries, and I think Venus will have just moved into Pisces, but she started her retrograde in Aries as well. So there was this energy of reflecting on our actions and our motivations as they relate to the way we communicate, the way we process things, and as they relate to our relationships and our self-worth.
Yeah.
And so, and not only that, but we just had a huge period of Mars retrograding, which is another time of reflecting on our actions, and the way we assert ourselves. So there's just a lot of reflection and closure as it comes to things that relate to Aries energy.
Mm.
So what I feel that this new moon eclipse is about, and we haven't even talked about Neptune yet, but as you mentioned, there's a lot of possibility.
Yeah.
But in order to create space for possibility, it's about like cleaning things out.
Yeah.
So I do think there's a lot of push to take action, but it's not, I don't, maybe it's different for a lot of people, but what I'm seeing with the astrology is that it's taking action to create space. It's clearing things out, it's reviewing things and not necessarily filling it right away, but instead being okay with the space being empty for the universe, God, whatever it is you want to call it, to come in and offer some things or just some space to allow yourself to dream about what the possibilities could be. Um, so yeah, on that note, maybe I'll just talk about Neptune a little
Yeah,
bit.
let's do it. Let's do it. Because Neptune is kind of like behind, he's like the I feel like with this lunation, Neptune is like the man behind the curtain, like in Wizard of Oz. He's like the man
Yes.
behind the curtain, like making everything happen.
Oh, absolutely. Neptune is like quietly the star of the show
Oh yeah.
of the latter of March. Um,
Oh yeah.
so this Neptune isn't necessarily connecting with this new moon, but in the chart of this new moon, we have Venus, Neptune and Mercury all very, very close to each other. I would consider them all conjunct to each other. They're all within 3 degrees. We have Venus at the 28th degree of Pisces, Neptune in the 29th degree of Pisces, and Mercury in the second degree of Aries. So those are just sitting right on top of each other, really activating Neptune. In like I mentioned, in regards to Venus is your relationships, romance, the way you love, the way you show up in love, self-love, and your relationship to beauty. And Mercury is your mind, the way you communicate, it's your friendships. So really all of our close relationships are really impacted here. Um, and with Neptune, it brings a sense of imagination, it brings a sense of creativity, of romance, but with that, it also can bring a sense of anxiety because Neptune, rules water. And so think of like when there's fog in the air, there's water in the air, right? And we can't see things. You can't see clearly. Um, and this can create anxiety because we don't know. We as humans like to know what's going on. But when you know things, there isn't that space for dreaming. There isn't that space for what's possible. Um, and so that's what Neptune really asks us to do is to get comfortable in the uncomfortable space of not knowing
Yeah.
and allowing ourselves to dream. And so that's what is really brought into this. And that's intensified because Neptune is finishing its cycle
Yeah.
in Pisces, where it's been since 2011. And it's starting a brand new cycle, not only by moving into a new sign, but a brand new astrological cycle. So it's
Yeah.
wrapping up a bunch of lessons and starting fresh with Aries. Um, So yeah, it's really being intensified. And,
Yeah.
again, we have a lot of energy in Aries and it's not over yet. We have Saturn making moves in Aries, but we'll talk about that later.
Well,
But Neptune in Aries is really about bringing in our intuition and our spirituality into our bodies, into our personal power. I will say it can bring that me first energy into people's spiritual beliefs, which includes like organized religion. So that, people may be pushing their morals on other people even stronger than they already are right now, which isn't fantastic news. But at the same time, we have all this beautiful energy that we've tapped into. I know, spirituality has become very mainstream, mental health, mindfulness, yoga, meditation. We have all of that now moving into this fresh cycle.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's lots of new beginnings in terms of the things that we can't see with our eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like what you shared there. And I do think I agree. I think the Neptune move is really like the star of the last half of March and really almost what we're feeling even more strongly than the eclipse in some ways. But I think it's interesting, what you shared about how when Neptune moves into Aries, we might find that there are some people who are kind of trying to like force their religion, their spiritual concepts, their beliefs on others. Yeah, I definitely could see that being the case, but I think there's also a positive side of it because if we think about Neptune in Pisces, even though they're very similar in some ways, right? Like eh, Pisces has a lot of Neptunian qualities to it, the dreaminess, the visions, the intuition, the spirituality. But when those two get together, I think it can also create a lot of illusion. And I think it
Yeah.
can also create situations where people are more easily bought into illusion. So I think propaganda is something that get can be shared often in greater ways. And when you think about even the way social media has been infiltrated through propaganda over the since 2011 through now, it's kind of interesting to note. We also can note that during Neptune and Pisces times, we tend to have stronger cult-like followings and
Mhm.
cult-like personalities. And that's definitely happened here as well.
I do just want to say on another note, it does bring some of those qualities with Neptune and Aries, it does bring some of those qualities into our leadership, which isn't great.
No, we're already
I know,
there.
I'm
I thought it was going to
sorry.
take us the other way, where people would
No,
finally
baby,
wake
I'm
up and
sorry.
be like, wait, I'm in a cult. What?
I mean, it could be a little bit of both. We can
Okay,
step
I'll
into
take
our
that.
own power by stepping away from it, and also it may show up in our leadership
Yeah.
a bit more,
Well, that's because
but
they don't want to lose their leadership. So
exactly.
they're going to
Double
cling
down.
on to that belief, to that forcing because it's what they think they need to maintain power because they don't have true power. They have fake power. They have power over not authentic power, which is what Aries is actually asking of us, right?
Right.
So, okay, okay. I guess I don't have
Yeah.
to be super
No. So,
angry.
and like we talked about before the call, like in order for us to learn things on an individual level, I feel like stuff has to happen on the macro level,
Yeah.
right? For us to then
Yeah.
respond to individually, and then we change as individuals, and then that, you know, waterfalls into the macro. So it's not like, woohoo, everything's going to be great. It's like usually something has to happen to instigate the change.
Yeah.
And that's just life on this planet.
Yeah. Yeah. And so
Yeah.
just note, like, even if we notice, hey, like it feels as though we're moving away from the light or moving more into some of the shadow aspects of these transits or what we see within the astrology, there's always astrology itself is not does not see one as good or bad. It's just information. It's just data. And then there's always the what we consider more the light aspect available as much as the shadow is. And just as you said, I do feel like if we can return to that energy that's being called upon within each of us, the authenticity, the empowerment, that sense of my desires, my goals, my divinity, my personal power, that can end up leading us away from cult-like tendencies, illusion, all of that. Um, so it's just very interesting that it's almost like the energy that has created a bit of the shadow is also the energy that has the light to shine into it, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So very interesting. No, you had also mentioned about the retrogrades, Mercury retrograde in particular. I do think around this new moon, Mercury shifts from Aries back into Pisces, correct?
Yep.
So that might have us feeling extra foggy for a little bit.
Yeah.
Because Mercury retrograde
And
already has us a little like what am I? My communication's already a little discombobulated, but when we have Mercury retrograde in Pisces, it's like the fog
conjunct
you,
Neptune.
oh, and conjunct Neptune. It's like totally that fog you were talking about, Sarah,
Yeah.
where we can like we're like cleaning off our glasses, but it doesn't matter because it's just a wall of fog right in front of us. So one of the things I always say for eclipse season is try not to seek clarity. You can be open to clarity arriving, but try not to force it. Try not to reach for it. Try not to be like, I need it now. Just like Sarah was saying earlier, can we get comfortable in the discomfort of not knowing? That is a big part of what eclipse season asks of us. Can we get comfortable with not knowing? Can we get comfortable with not seeing? Can we get comfortable with nothing coming sometimes, or other times with everything coming? You know what I mean? It's just, it just depends. Can we get comfortable with the uncomfortable? Um, that's kind of what we're tasked with. And I think that if we can allow that, if we can surrender into it, then we can get, I don't want to say rewarded, because I don't really think the universe is always like working with that, like, dangling carrot or a stick type thing. I don't think it really works like that. But I do feel like if we can allow ourselves to get comfortable with the unknown, that allows us to open even more to that energy of everything is possible that this new moon is bringing in for us. So, if you're seeking clarity on certain things, my advice is to wait past this lunation, maybe even wait until we get to the full moon in Libra and the illumination that that lunation will bring in. By that point, we're out of eclipse season, and there could be
Out of
some
retrogrades.
out of retrograde. Oh my God. When are we? I don't think we're quite out of Mars out of Cancer yet. That's coming soon, though. Oh my God, I'm so
It's
excited.
very soon. It's in, by mid-April, we're just gonna feel a breath of fresh air because we'll still be in Aries. We'll have the retrogrades direct, and then Mars will move into Libra. So just still be present, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, don't be hard on yourself. Things
Yes.
are coming. Things are
Things are
coming.
coming. Things are coming. And just trust, like, even if you're feeling this really motivational energy with this new moon, and yet you're like, but things aren't coming my way, it's okay. Still trust the motivational energy. Still trust what you're feeling inside and move with it. Sometimes it takes some times for things in the physical to match what's happening in the energetic.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Um, all right. I think that's it. I think that's it. That feels complete.
Yes. That does. I feel like
That
we
feels complete. So, if you guys are looking for any extra support, we have another new moon circle in our intuitive moon community happening on sorry, my brain. This is Neptune, you guys. I literally have to check things. This is Mercury
Monday's
retrograde and Neptune.
31st, right?
Yes, it is Monday, the 31st, exactly right, which is 2 days after the new moon and 1 day after Neptune moves into Aries. So, it'll be some fresh energies we're sitting in that day, which will feel fun. So we have that. If you are wanting to join us, you can join the Intuitive Moon community by clicking on the link below. There's a 21-day free trial so you can test it out and see if you enjoy it. We would love to have you in circle with us. So we've got that. And also, if when you're in the Intuitive Moon community, you will also get horoscopes and journal prompts for every lunation as well. If you don't want to join the community, but you still want more information about this new moon in Aries, please check out the moon blog by following the link below. And if you have any comments or questions, please let us know. And of course, if you love this type of content, please subscribe, like, share, and save, and all the things. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys in a few weeks as we talk about the full moon in Libra and as we very gracefully leave eclipse season as well. All right, friends, we've got this. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. See you next time. Bye, friends. Do, do,
Bye.
do, 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 do.